In the course of his teachings, Jesus said to the crowds, "Beware the scribes, who like to go around in long robes and accept greetings in the marketplaces, seats of honor at synagogues, and places of honor at banquets. They devour the houses of the widows, and as a pretext, recite lengthy prayers. They will receive a very severe condemnation." He sat down opposite the treasury and observed how the crowd put money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow also came and put in 2 small coins worth a few cents. Calling his disciples to himself, he said to them, "Amen, I say to you, the poor widow put in more than all the other contributors to the treasury. For they have all contributed from their surplus wealth, but she from her poverty has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. Our gospel today is from Mark, as we wind down cycle B, getting ready for cycle C, which is Luke, coming in a couple of weeks as we start the new liturgical year. This is a great gospel. It's referred to as the widow's mite. And through the centuries, or not centuries, at least through my lifetime, as I have heard this gospel preached by many different people in many different pulpits, one common theme that seems to arise from this gospel is the theme of tithing, giving to your church. Which I must say, I'm a fan of this idea. Okay, I like the idea of tithing. I think it's a very noble thing. But the depth of this gospel is such that to really hang your hat on the idea of tithing as being what this gospel is to really miss what the deeper meaning of this gospel is. I think it would be a very superficial reading. It's a whole lot more than tithing. In fact, it's not really about tithing at all. You have 2 basic groups that are facing off. This is not unusual. This is not uncommon. We've seen this happen many times before. You have the rich, which is also represented by the religious leadership, and then you have this poor widow. The rich, of course, representing the higher level of the social stratus, and the widow representing the very lowest level of the social stratus. Jesus is observing the people putting in money into the treasury. Now, in the temple, which is where they are, it's built in concentric rings. The outer temple, the outer rings is where everybody can go. Gentiles and Jews, men and women and everybody. Then the inner ring from there is you have to be Jewish to go into that ring. And then the inner ring from there is you have to be a man to go into that ring. And a Jewish man. And then the inner ring from that, you have to be a religious, either scribe or Pharisee or Sadducee. And then, of course, then the inner sanctum is the Holy of Holies. Now, of course, they would have the treasury in the outer ring, because while they might discriminate who can go where, they certainly don't discriminate on who can give money, right? So they have the treasury on the outside. It's a very large brass horn, wide on one side, really thin on the other side. So you throw money into it, and it goes clang, 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 makes money. Big show. More money you throw in, more noise. Jesus, as we know, has been at war with the religious leadership for some time. I don't know exactly where this started, but I think it probably started with the parable of the wicked tenant. Do you remember that parable when the landowner that built the vineyard with the hedge and the wine press, And he sent his servants to get the proper due. And of course they killed the servants. And then he sent his only son. And then they killed the son. And then he turns to the religious leadership and he says, what do you think the master of that land will do when they come? And they of course said, well, he put them to a wretched death, those terrible tenants. And then Jesus looks at them and says, you're the tenants. You're the evil tenants. Certainly not a way to make friends. So they that was really, if you were to put your finger on when they decided that he must die, that's pretty much where it happened. So they're upset at him, and Jesus doesn't make it any easier. He starts by saying, beware of the scribes who like to go around in long robes, accept greetings in the marketplaces, seats of honor in synagogues, places of honor in banquets. They devour the houses of the widows as a pretext and recite lengthy prayers. They will receive a rather severe condemnation. Well, first of all, what is a scribe? Do you know what a scribe is? It's important to understand that a scribe is representing the literate arm of Israel. So a scribe, the basic of a scribe is they can read and write. Now to us, well, shoot, we can all read and write. But in the ancient world, it was not so. It was rare. So they're literate, and they're the intellectual. So the most basic scribe is a copyist. Because, of course, they didn't have Xerox machines right there. You couldn't make copies. Everything had to be written out longhand. And the one thing that was copied the most was the Torah, right? So the scribe's main job, the basic scribe, is to copy copies of the Torah, right? But that isn't all they do. They would specialize. Some would become scripture scholars, and some would become legal experts. Now, as legal experts, one of the things that the scribes would be called upon to do as a legal expert is when a woman has her husband die and she does not have a male heir, in this culture a woman cannot own property. So it reverts to a trustee. And that trustee is a legal expert. Guess who that is? It's a scribe. And the scribe, serving as a trustee of the property, charging exorbitant rates for what they do, and sometimes, in some cases, actually living in the house of where they're supposed to be taking care of this widow. So this idea of him saying, beware of the scribes, they devour the widows, recite lengthy prayers. He's talking about a prayer shawl where they wear in public. Prayer shawl is really kind of a private prayer. It'd be like me walking around with a Bible everywhere I go, just so everybody could see how holy I was. That's pretty much what that is, okay? They will receive a rather severe condemnation. So not only are they doing something wrong, but they're doing something wrong in the name of religion. So it's double jeopardy. It's double condemnation. It's double judgment. It makes me kind of think, and I got to be careful here, because I don't want to be talking trash about other people. However, I often wonder sometimes these TV evangelists, they say, send me $100 and God will bless you. And then you find out that none of that money, or very, very little of that money actually went to any poor people. It just went to enrich themselves. And I'm wondering, what's the conversation going to be like at the gate with that one? That's going to be rather uncomfortable, I would imagine. But moving on. That's really the first part of the widow's mite. And it's fun, but that's not where the lesson is. The lesson is in the second part. The second part, when Jesus is standing there watching these people throw their money into this big brass horn. Like I say, more money you throw, more rattling it makes, the more noise it makes, the more show it is. And the wealthy people are putting in a lot of money and they're making sure that everybody sees them. And then this woman puts in 2 cents. And Jesus said, the woman gave more. The widow gave more because she gave everything that she had, while the rich people just gave out of their own abundance. And you say, well, yeah, I imagine that's true. Imagine you had a dinner party and you invited all your friends. and everybody that you knew, and they all came to your house, and you had this dinner party, and you served them leftovers. Okay? That'd be pretty rude, don't you think? I mean, I might do that because I don't cook, okay? I'd serve them your leftovers, but I mean, generally you don't serve leftovers to guests. Why? Because leftovers are a rather humble thing. Nothing wrong with them for ourselves, but when you're throwing a party, you don't serve leftovers. However, when it comes to God, and when it comes to religion, if we're really honest with ourselves, don't we give him the leftovers? And I'm not just talking about our money, giving the leftover money. Mother Teresa says if you only give out of your surplus, that's not really giving. But this is not just about money, it's about time. Maybe a spare minute in the morning. Maybe just a kind of a mumble over a meal if we remember to say grace. You know, but it's just kind of like the leftovers of our time, because we're really kind of lost and focused in on what we perceive to be the important things of the day. And we kind of regulate Jesus to kind of our leftovers. Isn't that true? He says this woman gave everything that she had. In other words, because religious art kind of depicts many scenes of the widow's mite, right? And it's always like this really old lady, and she's bent over like this, and she's like 150, and she's almost like embarrassed as she puts in her 2 pennies, and that's how religious art depicts this scene. But I don't see it that way at all. I think that's wrong. I think this was a proud woman. I think this was a woman that was standing tall. And she was saying, Lord, you promised me that if I gave you everything, you would take care of me. And I'm going to stand on that promise. And I'm going to give it all. And she threw those 2 cents in that brass horn. Didn't make much of a noise, I can imagine. And it rolled down. She gave everything she had. No plan B. Everything that she had. And not one scribe even looked up. Nobody noticed. Just another day in the temple. Just another insignificant moment in history. But let me tell you about another seemingly insignificant moment in history. When they led an innocent man up a hill, and they nailed him to a cross, and he bled and he died. And outside of a few family members, maybe a stray disciple here or there, nobody seemed to notice at all. The world just yawned. Just another day, just another crazy person, arrested for sedition, hanging on a cross. What's for lunch? My friends, you see, that's the ultimate widow's mite, is what's behind it. The ultimate widow's mite is Jesus on the cross, because he gave everything for you. He gave everything for me. Every last breath, every last blood, drop of blood, everything that he had, he gave for us. This woman's lesson is the kindergarten leap of faith into the great abyss. She wasn't so sure, but she dove into it. She gave everything. She's all in. And Jesus gives it all for us. So the question that we have that is inescapable is, if Jesus has given us everything, what are we going to give him today? The church calls Craig